you can hear me, I want to make sure I'm all right. There was once a giant, and he loved nothing better than to work in his garden. He grew tomatoes the size of basketballs. He drew carrots that looked like traffic cones. And he had green beans that reached to the sky. Now, one day that giant was out working in his garden, and he was using his shovel. He had a particularly nasty weed he wanted to get out of the ground. So he dug in that weed and it wouldn't come out. So he thought to himself, I have to get that weed out of the garden, so I'll just raise my shovel over my head and whack it away. So he raised his shovel and he pointed towards the weed and whack! He cut off his toe. Ah! His toe was writhing around on the ground. Oh, my toe, I have to get my toe. And he picked it up and he said, I'll just put it in my pocket and I'll work with the garden a little more. So he put the toe in his pocket and he began to dig and weed his garden. But the giant had forgotten one important fact. Giants' toes are magical creatures. And while the toe was sitting in his pocket with nothing to do, it decided it would grow arms. Shwink, shwink. And then it decided it would grow legs. Twing. And then it grew eyes. Pop, pop. And a nose. And then it got more bored and said, I'm bored in here. I'm going to go see what's going around. So he crawled up to the giant's shoulder and looked at the giant and said, Hi, how you doing, Mr. Giant? Who are you? Well, I'm your toe. Didn't you recognize me? My toe? I can't have my toe running around by itself. Get back in my pocket. And the toe said, No. Yes. No. Yes. Get in my pocket. No. Oh, he stuck it back in his pocket. The giant began to think and he said, You know, I'm kind of hungry. And what would be really delicious is toe pie. I'd like to have some toe pie with some toe jam. When I get back to the castle, I'm going to take the toe and put it in a pie, and I'm going to have it for lunch. And so he finished with the weeding and he went back to the castle. And he rolled out a beautiful pie crust. And he stuck the toe by its toenail into the pie and rolled back the cover. Now the giant went off to get wood for the stove. And that toe, that ornery toe, was sitting in the middle of the pie crust thinking, I got to get out of here. He's going to eat me. So he took his toenail and cut a hole in the top of the crust and walked out onto the table. Now, if I don't make the weight the same, then the giant's going to know there's nothing in the pie. So he scanned the kitchen. Look over there. There's a bird over there in the corner with gold things around it. I'll go get the bird. And so he jumped off the table, down to the floor, and he tiptoed across to the bird, grabbed it by its tail feathers, and smacked it on the behind. Whack! Buck, 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 buck. The bird went high into the air. It hit the rafters of the ceiling. Toing! Ooh, and landed right in the middle of the pie crust. The toe rolled it back over and hid behind the salt and the pepper shaker, waiting for the giant to return. Oh, toe pie! I can't wait to have toe pie. It's magically delicious. I can't wait. So he put the wood into the oven and he shoved in the pie, and a wonderful aroma began to fill the kitchen. I recognize that smell. You know, toe pie smells just like chicken. And as the aroma went through his nostrils, he couldn't wait. He pulled the pie out and he began to eat it with his giant knife and fork. He finished the whole pie, but the toe crawled up the side of his garment and said, "Ha! Do you like the pie?" "What was in the pie? You're supposed to be in the pie." "I put that stupid bird in there instead." "You took my chicken that lays the golden eggs and put her in the pie? Oh, I'm gonna get you now. I'm gonna get my shovel and I'm gonna dig a hole and I'm gonna send you all the way to China." So he took the bag off the harp and threw the toe in the bag, poing, and tied it up. But the toe complained. It said, "Mr. Giant, it's dark in here. I can't see a thing." And so the giant got a little teeny candle, lit it, opened the bag, gave it to the toe. "Thank you." And he put the bag back together. "I'm going to go get my shovel now." So off the giant went to get a shovel. And that crafty little toe, who we know so well, burnt a hole in the bottom of the bag, got out, and hid once again behind the salt and pepper shaker. But before he did, he put the bag back on the harp. The giant came in. "I got my shovel now. You're going to China for sure." And he grabbed the bag, and off they went, while the toe hopped back into his pocket. He dug a hole through the clouds, down into the earth, around the earth's core, and out the other side, and he took that bag and he threw it into the hole. And all the way, as the bag cascaded off the side of the hole, you could hear bring, bring, bring. And the toe crawled right back onto his shoulder. He said, "Huh, do you like the music?" "What? You're supposed to be in the bag." "No, I put that dumb harp in there instead. Do you like the music?" "Ooh," said the giant. "I'm going to get you now. We're going to wrestle and have a fight." So they got in a circle and they started to wrestle. They did half Nelsons, full Nelsons, double flips, and finally they were toe to toe in a toe hold. But it ended up in a tie. The giant went off to the castle. The toe went out to the garden gate. And as the toe's sitting on the garden gate, all of a sudden, out of the clouds, there comes a small green shoot. And then another green shoot. And they intertwine. And vines begin to come up and intertwine. And leaves grow. And a stalk comes up. And more leaves grow. And there's a boy hanging on the end of the leaves. The boy hops down on the clouds, comes back up to the toe and said, "Hey, my name's Jack. You're an ugly toe. Don't mess with me, I'm a tough toe. Well, I came here for some things. I want that chicken that lays the golden eggs." "I'm sorry," said the toe. "We ate her." "Ooh," said Jack. "Well, then I want that harp, that golden harp." Said the toe. "The harp went to China. She won't be back." "Ooh, then I'm going to get that giant." "I don't think so. You see, the giant, he cut himself in two." That made Jack so mad that he went back down the vine and was never seen again. But the giant and the toe lived happily ever after, working in the topiary, Thank you.
Rick, you had talked about perhaps having a second story for us.
I
Are you
do,
going
but
to
I
share?
don't want to be a hog. Do you want to sit around and listen to me tell another story, guys? I can do it, but it's
All
up to you.
right.
All
You,
right, let
you
me.
can be a hog or a goose or
All
just go
right,
for it.
okay. This is a little different. I have to get the microphone up again. All right, and you need to see me, don't you? Do you see me? I don't see me. Okay, you can see me? Oh, that's right, because I'm on. All right. You know, when I was a child, I have to get some pictures here. When I was a child, every April, we would get to watch The Wizard of Oz on television. It was a magical event. It happened every April like clockwork. We were so excited to see the Tin Man and the Cowardly Lion and Dorothy and the Scarecrow. But then one day, it disappeared. The Wizard of Oz was not on television. And it got me to thinking, I wonder what happened to the people in The Wizard of Oz. So I thought for a minute, and I decided, well, you know, Dorothy got to be in Return to Oz, and the Great and Powerful Oz. So she did okay. Now, the Scarecrow, well, he could get a job anywhere. In a field, in a garden, no problem. Scarecrows do well. The Cowardly Lion, well, he went to work for Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer Pictures as their mascot. He had a great job. All he had to do was growl once at the beginning of a movie. But what happened to the Tin Man? I didn't know. So, all of a sudden, one day, we were driving in my hometown of Muncie, Indiana, past a graveyard, which was directly across from the sheet metal works, and there was the Tin Man in my hometown. He worked in Muncie, Indiana. Wasn't that great? He'd come to work every day after he'd had a cup of 3-in-1 oil, stand in front of the sheet metal works all day, and then at night, he'd go gallivant around. But the problem was, the Tin Man had gotten a heart, but he didn't have anyone to share it with. He was very lonely. So, one night, he went up to see his friend Paul Bunyan, who lived at the lumber yard in Muncie. And he said, Paul, I don't have anybody to share my heart with. And Paul said, well, little man, I got something for you. There's this lady over at the college named Beneficence. She's got wings and a gossamer gown. She's a little shy. But I think if you went over and sang your song for her, why, you'd make her so happy that you two might hook up. So the Tin Man took his words to heart, and he went over and stood in front of the statue of Beneficence at Ball State. She had 5 pillars set on a pedestal with wings. And she was very shy. She'd just go, it's a Tin Man. So he sang her a song. When a man's an empty kettle, he should be on his mettle, and yet I'm torn apart. I'd be friends with you forever, and you'd never, 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 if I only had your heart. Woke the girl up. She said, oh, Mr. Tin Man, oh, you sing so beautifully. Tell me, is there anything you've wanted to do that you weren't able to? Well, little lady, you know, I'm kind of metal, and it's really hard for me to get around it. I always wanted to go on a vacation. Oh, well, I can help you. And so she took her two arms and reached under the Tin Man and flew him up into the air over Muncie, Indiana. And he flew her back down and he said, "Could we go visit other places?" Sure. So they went on a vacation. They went to Collinsville, Illinois, and stood at Brookstone Kitchen. They had hot dogs. It was wonderful. They flew to Metropolis, Illinois, where Superman lived. And I have to tell you that Beneficence was kind of smitten by the Tin Man. It almost caused an illicit affair. But she finally realized that the Tin Man had her heart. So they went out to see the giant ball of twine at Cocker City, Kansas. And their hearts became entwined at the giant ball of twine. And they lived happily ever after. So that's why, if you drive down the road all over these United States, you might see their brothers or their sisters or their children or their grandchildren, because the Tin Man and Beneficence really did live happily ever after. Thank you.